All right, everybody, we have a special kind of day today. We get to be joined by a just very recent PGA Tour winner, Davis Riley. Thanks for taking some time, man. Congratulations on the win. Thanks for joining us. I know you've probably been pretty busy after a big win like that at the Charles Schwab.
Yeah, no, first, thank you. I appreciate it. No, it's a super exciting week, and obviously doing it so close to home, being a Dallas guy in the recent years. No, it was a dream week.
That's pretty awesome, and it's so interesting. I mean, everybody says on tour, when you talk to recent winners of how hard it is to win out on tour. I mean, this is your second PGA Tour win. How good does it feel to get that under your belt? And does that give you a little bit more confidence going forward? Throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. No, getting that second win was super special, and yeah, it was. It's never easy, no matter how shot lead you have, and especially when you got the number one player in the world breathing down your neck. It's it's going to be a challenge. But no, super fun week, and yeah, to do it in pretty cool fashion to win by a couple was awesome. And no, I'm just over the moon, and I'm super excited about kind of the doors this open, adding some events to the schedule, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, yeah, congratulations again. It was fun to watch this weekend, and like you said, it was some good golf, which is always exciting. And yeah, here at Golf WRX, but we're gearheads, so definitely want to kind of jump into a little bit of your bag because you do play. Well, I won't call it like a crazy unique setup. You definitely have a little bit of a unique setup with the irons. Combo sets are kind of getting bigger and bigger in the amateur world. We see it a little bit more out on tour, but you're kind of blending three different Titleist irons into your set. So just an overview, like what kind of brought that about? I mean, to bring in kind of a different 3-iron, and then you've got the 4 through 7 or 4 through 6 being a different iron, and then moving into another set of irons for the rest of it. What was kind of the theory behind that when you started putting that together?
Yeah, it's funny. I've kind of had this pseudo combo set for, I mean, gosh, ever since I can remember, probably, when I was in high school and college and stuff. So I've done it for years. But yeah, I've always, I play the 620 MB now. I've always just loved the classic look of the muscle back iron. And I'm a guy who likes to, I'm always taking, yards off a shot. I love to work it both ways. So I feel like the MB just kind of gives me that. You have the luxury of that, and then just looking down at it, just that classic blade look I love a lot. And yeah, the latter part in the T100s, that was pretty recent. So I remember at San Diego, spent a lot of time with JJ and Jim Curran, two amazing reps we have out there. Having those guys is amazing. And yeah, I was actually in the CB, and I found with the T100, I had more consistent apex height and spin numbers. So it was pretty interesting that what we saw there, and it was kind of a no-brainer switch. So I was super excited about getting into the T100s. They were amazing, and then obviously I have the T200 and the 3-iron. I love that club. I actually played it this last week, and it's one of my favorite clubs in the bag. And you just, with that one, you have the luxury of looking down at that classic players iron look, and then you kind of have the forgiveness of the big utility iron or hybrid. So it kind of has you have the best of both worlds with it. And yeah, and that's been a great addition to the bag.
Yeah, now I was going to ask because I mean you have that T200 there, or yeah, T200 3-iron, and I know we shot your bag a little earlier in the year, and you actually had a TSR2 hybrid in the bag as well. Does the T200 kind of, is that something that you kind of go between the TSR2 hybrid and the T200 3-iron, or is it something that like you just put in for certain courses or something like that, or is that now been replaced with the T200 3-iron?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I carry them both every week. Yeah. So a lot of it tailors to the course. And I found myself playing it this week because I feel like there are a lot of 3-irons off the tee. Being here in Fort Worth, it was pretty dry. It was firm. So it's a club you can kind of, for me, I carried about 235 yards. So it's a club that I feel like I can just find the fairway, a lot of the time with. And around a Colonial, you need that kind of security blanket where you can get it far enough, where you have a reasonable club in, but kind of with a lot of accuracy. So I switch. I would say it's fairly 50-50, to be quite honest with you. And I love both of them. They kind of fit different purposes. The hybrid's a lot more when I've got medium length par fives I'm kind of hitting into when I've got to, get a little extra. I hit that club about 250. So quite a few of the par fives and maybe some longer par threes. But yeah, kind of switch in between those two.
Yeah, it was interesting because, like I said, looking back at some of your what's in the bag stuff when you after your one, as we were putting it together, kind of noticed that that wasn't there, but it's been there previously, and then at the other side of the bag, like you mentioned, you played the 620 MB at the the lower end of the bag. but then you do play a Vokey pitching wedge. And I know a lot of people, especially amateurs or more skilled amateurs, kind of run that fence of seeing a lot of pros play kind of a sand wedge style pitching wedge.
Mhm.
And they kind of wonder, like, what's kind of the difference for you instead of playing the 620 MB pitching wedge, going to the Vokey SM10, the 46 degree? What's kind of performance difference that you see out there?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think it's a lot of a comfort thing. Because I feel like there's something about stepping over a wedge that gives me comfort. I'm like, okay, I'm close to the hole. I feel like I should hit this close. I mean, and I love the Vokies as well as the 620 MB. But there was not too much rhyme or reason to it. Just I love the classic look of the Vokey, looking down at it, and just something about having a wedge in your hand just kind of feels like, all right, let's attack this thing. So it's kind of a comfort thing. I feel like more than anything.
Gotcha. So you're not playing just for, yeah, because I think a lot of people like look at it as going, is it going to, change the spin rate? Is it going to change, launch angle, thing like that? Where, yeah, to you, if it's just kind of a transition into the rest of the wedges, that makes sense as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you kind of people can get in that little crossroads of like, okay, do I go with the Vokey or do I go with the T100 set or whatever Titleist iron it might be. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of fit the wall similarly, and I just feel like it's just having a Vokey. I feel like I can kind of flight it, take some stuff. So there might be a little bit more playability there, just being a wedge. But they both look so good, you can't really go wrong either way.
Yep. And then another thing that I found interesting when you look at kind of your bag in general, and it seems like your TSR3 driver, extremely stiff, stout profile shaft. You look at hybrid and even utility iron, 3 iron, very stiff, very low launch, low spin, stiff profiles. And then you get into irons, and it's a low launch, low spin shaft. It's the 125. It's not the 130. Why do you go a little softer in the irons?
Yeah, I've played that shaft for so long, and I think it's just like I've gotten so used to it that I've tried the X130, but it's a thing like I don't know, just that feel of the shaft. I'm so used to it, like it's just hard for me to kind of get out of it because I've played that shaft since high school. Um,
Wow.
it's crazy. So I've played it for, I mean, gosh, years and years now. So I think it's a comfort thing, and we're seeing really good spin numbers and launch conditions with it. So I haven't seen much reason to change. And but yeah, in the woods and stuff, I definitely play the stiffer and low spinning stuff. Just being typically a high spin guy, high speed guy. There's been a lot of trial and error there, but we found a really good formula with those shafts. A lot of those vintage shafts, and then the hazardous and the driver. But yeah, I'm just a high spin, high launch guy, and so we're just trying everything we can do to kind of bring me back to neutral and get those proper launch conditions.
Yeah, and then I would assume you kind of like you kind of transition that into wedges as well. I mean, going with S400 as opposed to say X100 is it kind of the same thing, a little bit more feel, a little softer, something you're used to when you look at the rest of the Vokies in the
Yeah,
bag.
sure. And I think just trying to put a finger on it, it's probably just because, like I'd mentioned, I'm just such a, like with my irons, I just kind of like to be an artist. I'm always taking, hitting them, taking 10 yards off with a cut. Okay, I'm kind of back foot drawing an iron trying to draw it in there. I think it's just more because I play, like I love feel, and maybe that softness gives me a little bit more feel as opposed to, an X130 or, a stiffer, X100 in the wedges or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it was just an interesting observation just overall, but it makes total sense when you start explaining it like that.
Yeah.
And you kind of mentioned, spin rates, launch angle, all that. I mean, is that something that you're into all the time? I mean, I know there's players on tour who kind of like just hand me the club, I'm going to go hit it, and then there's other players who are very dialed into what their numbers are and trying to achieve different numbers and things like that. Are you more on kind of that tech side of following up with that, or are you more the feel, just let me get over the shot and kind of visualize it and hit it?
For sure, I am into it a lot. It's something that me and my coach, and obviously I've spent a lot of time with the tour reps out there, Jim, JJ, and a bunch of other guys. Spent a lot of time with them. But yeah, certainly something that we're looking at. Having that, there's a fine line between having that feel, but at the same time, we need to make sure these spin numbers and launch conditions are optimized, and that's what a lot of players are trying to do. They're trying to get everything optimized, and my coach helps me out a lot with that because he probably knows a lot more about it than I do in those tour reps. So they kind of help guide me, and it's a thing too. Like I know when I get in tournaments and I see a driver that I'm like, hey, it's feeling a little spinny right now. Hey, it's like launching a little high. So and then it's nice to have all the data to hit some shots and kind of take a look at it and say, hey, okay, this is kind of where our loose ends. We can kind of play around with the settings in the driver, play around with the loft, and I've obviously, and I'm I've spent a lot of time with actually the CG weight in the back. So we've made a bunch of tweaks to kind of get it right where we want it.
That's awesome. And are you a guy who kind of changes a lot, or like, if there's anything new, are you trying it, or are you kind of, once you find the right mix, you kind of just stick with it and roll with it until you feel like, okay, a change might need to be made. Are you a swapper or a tinkerer, or no?
Yeah, no, I don't tinker a lot. No, I really don't. When I kind of find something I like, I'm like, okay. And if it's working, I'm like, I kind of like this. But also at the same time, I get really excited when I step on the range and they've launched a new driver, new iron and stuff. I always want to try it out, but like I know what works well for me, so I got to like kind of hone myself in from that. Like, oh, this is Christmas. I just want to hit everything new, kind of thing. So it's like the fine line between saying, hey, this is what works for me, and then hey, is this and a lot of times it does the new stuff. And that's the beauty of Titleist. Like the new stuff always just gets better and better. So it's hard not to switch, but also at the same time, what's going to give me the best comfort out there.
Yeah, yeah. And then talking about switches, I know ball wise, you've recently made a switch as well. You were playing Pro V1 left dot, and now you're just playing the standard Pro V1. But you also did kind of mess with the Pro V1 X for a little bit as well, just kind of trying to figure it out. What made you switch into the new Pro V1 from the left dot?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, yeah, like you said, I played the left dot for a lot my rookie year, and man, I had a lot of success with it. But then as some things I was working on my swing, I kind of saw like, okay, the launch and spin was getting a little low. Then I tinkered around with the Pro V1X, and then I kind of went the other way. And then the brand new Pro V1 was like the perfect ball. So, yeah, and I switched to that, midway, actually, a handful of months ago. I think I spent a lot of time with 40, our ball guy out there, and I think it was around Sawgrass time. So around that Florida swing, we switched back to that Pro V1, and it's been amazing. It brought the launch with a spin and the launch and spin with driver perfect, the long irons, and it was just kind of the perfect ball for me.
Yeah, and is it true? I mean, when you talk to tour players, I mean, we've heard the rumor that the golf ball is one of the harder things to change because you do hit it with every single club, every single shot, whether it's trying to bomb a drive, whether you're trying to hit something short and spinny. Is it really the hardest thing to change when it comes to equipment for you guys out on tour?
Oh, 100%. It's very difficult just because you get so used to the feel. I mean, just little things like you get used to like how you chip with it and how little chips are running out and stuff. Like I mean, it's probably it's one of the most important pieces of equipment. You're using it every single time, and you can't hardly say that about a lot of things, but it's so important. You just get little used to the little nuances of it, and then you kind of hit something you're like, wow, that was kind of different, or like just seeing how it performs in the wind and stuff like that. And honestly, with the Pro V, honestly, both the Pro V1s having played both of them, like they're so stable in the wind. It's crazy. They're both so good in the wind, and it's just the Pro V1 was that last little piece. I feel like it just optimized all my spin and launch conditions.
And then, like, for you to make a change of a ball like that, where you go from one ball to a totally different model, like what's the time frame for that? Like when you finally say, okay, like I think I'm going to make the change. It looks like numbers, whatever. Is it like instant? I just have confidence, go out and play, or is it I need to get a few rounds under my belt before I put it in play in a tournament or something like that?
For sure. I definitely, there's kind of a phase of it. I feel like the first phase is like, okay, let's get this thing on our launch monitor or whatever it is. Let's get a really good sample size of golf balls and get a baseline as comparative to the other ball. And it's like, okay, this is performing better. Let's go out on the course and get used to it, because there's things like, hey, this ball might perform better in the wind. You might not get that hurt of 10 or 15 yards in a 15-mile-an-hour wind as you would this new ball. So it's learning stuff like that, and like, hey, this ball might not curve quite as much for you. So it's like, I think it's like, okay, this ball is better. Now let's get used to the things that's making me better at, and getting it on the course. And to put an actual time frame on it, if I get a ball that I know is better and I've seen the data and it's optimized, like I think a week or two at home, I can go play that ball in 2 or 3 weeks time. Like it doesn't take too long. I just feel like I just need to get in that controlled environment, see the data, then okay, let me just get a handful of rounds under my belt. Then I'm like, okay, I'm confident in this. Let's go game with it.
Nice, yeah. That's actually, I mean, that's a little shorter time frame than I would have thought, but it makes a lot of sense. Between range and course time, if you get a week in there, I mean, that's probably quite a few shots from
Yeah,
almost every club in the bag that you're gonna get kind of dialed in.
for sure. And that's the thing too. It kind of, and that's the thing with the Titleist golf ball. It's like, oh, dude, how can this get any better? I'm like, I love this ball, and then they do this, and they show you're like, oh wow, your spin numbers got this much better. You picked up X amount of yards with the driver, and it's like, well, crap, how can I not play this? So it's better, and I know it is, and it's crazy how they keep doing it. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the new stuff, and the new Pro V1 is obviously huge. Reason why I was able to play so well last week. The wind was up, the greens were firm, and I knew exactly what I was getting.
No, that's pretty cool. The last piece of gear I want to ask you about, which was actually brought to me by somebody which I had no idea with, was your footwear. You interestingly enough have been wearing FootJoy shoes for a long, long, long time,
Yep.
but you somewhat recently found out that you were actually wearing the wrong size for years and years and years. So what happened here? What happened with this shoe size change?
Yeah, yeah, it was actually really funny. This was back when I was on Corn Ferry, and I was at the time. This was during COVID, and being top 10 on the Corn Ferry list, we got into opposite field events. And I remember I was playing the Barbasol in Kentucky. Good longtime friend Bubba Kruger has been great to me for years. But anyways, he came out and walked a practice round, and he was like, he watched a couple holes. I knew he was kind of looking at my shoes and feet, and I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, dude, I think I'm looking at your foot. You're losing like your stability in your right foot, and like I think your shoes are too big. And it's like something I've never thought about. And it's funny, like that's something I work on to this day, is like loading my right foot, my right leg, and it just shows you how big. And like, I mean, it's the one piece of equipment that connects you to the ground. You
Yeah.
know, and he sent me some shoes. Like he's like, hey, I'm gonna send you some like size 10 shoes, because I was wearing 11 at the time, and I was like, okay, I'll try them out. So I put them on. I'm like, whoa, this is like different. I was like, dude, how are you? I guess you're that good. How did you figure out my shoe sizes, like playing such a big factor here? But anyways, yeah, I tried the size 10s on, and I was like, dang, I'm way more connected to the ground here. And yeah, I'm still wearing that same size shoe ever since Bubba caught it back in Kentucky.
That's just crazy to think. I mean, you would have thought, like, over the years, I think any of us who, from kids on, we would try on shoes with our parents, and these feel good, and yeah, they're fine and whatever. But it's pretty funny that you went that long, and then all of a sudden, late, kind of middle of your career, all of a sudden, hey, you're wearing the wrong size shoe.
Yeah, yeah. Like you couldn't have told me this a couple years earlier. But
So,
no,
so you're still wearing tens now, and you've actually noticed a difference. I mean, you can tell, like, when you're through the swing, the
oh,
ground control's a little different.
oh, 100%. Like especially in my right foot and the backswing, like loading. Like if you don't have that stability around your foot and around the ankle, like you're gonna roll in the shoe. And like having that like compactness and like stability, like it honestly changed. I mean, a kind of a light bulb went off, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is different. And it was crazy how it worked out, because it's honestly something I would have never thought about. And it's been crazy how good it's been, and like having that connection to the ground is huge.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's got to be probably one of the most interesting gear stories you'll hear in a while. So that's pretty funny. Well,
Yeah,
Davis, hey, I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot going on. Thank you so much for kind of going through the bag. It was fun to, kind of getting your thoughts on what you're playing and why. And congratulations again on winning the Charles Schwab. That was just it's an awesome victory. And hopefully we'll wish you the best of luck for the rest of the year. Hopefully we'll see some more great finishes.
yeah. No, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the next and trying to get that next one.